how we work, right, as individuals, as human beings, like where's our potential anyways, right? How do we exploit that? How do we harness the potential? And those have always been questions that I ask myself. And in the last 30 years, I've been very passionate about that question. How do you harness, how do you perform at your best as an individual? And
Mhm.
what I've come to learn is that you need to know, you know, what are you made up of, right? And in the last 10 to 15 years, or we're putting a lot of emphasis on the neurosciences and how that works, and emotional intelligence. When I wrote my master's degree, and I was focusing on mergers and acquisitions, but really, like the performance aspect of it, the managerial leadership performance within change. And it was all about emotional intelligence, but for me, it was emotional self-regulation.
Mhm.
And so how do
Mm.
you transmute, how do you become aware of what's happening within you emotionally, right? And how do you transfer that, or how do you transform? I never like the word control of emotions, but how do you become aware of that and transform, right? Transform the emotion. And how do you link, the heart and the mind? We always talk about the heart, in leadership, and the hands and act. But how do you integrate all these pieces that we have within us, and so that we can bring ourselves to a peak performance? And so what I do a lot with leaders these days is coherence, right? So how do you bring heart and mind together so that you can actually reach intentionally peak performance? And that would be coherence for me, right? And there's a whole science around heart coherence and brain, and the neurosciences, neurocardiology, because we have a small brain in our heart, and we have our brain. And so
Mhm.
how does this work together, right? So that we can really exploit the potential that we have, and that we manage that energy also that we have. Because oftentimes we talk about burnout. That's you know, these days, burning out, right? Losing that energy. Well, okay, how do you preserve it on a day-to-day basis? So that's also work that I do with leaders, is how do you preserve your energy? How do you regulate it, right? And how you maintain it? And how do you keep yourself focused? And it's all through heart coherence that I do that, through science-based tools and techniques, that I teach. I have to teach it because it's new science. So I talk about neuroscience, positive psychology, neurocardiology, all of that. How did that work? How does that work together so that we can reach peak performance as individuals?